guys, it's Missniecytv and I'm here to do a review for Zatima Season 4, Episode 13. The episode picks up where it left off and Tony's about to get carried off to jail and everybody's trying to figure out why, and Tony's sitting there just talking and trying to confess and everybody's like, shut up. So Zach is like, Fatima, can you help? Fatima's like, I'm not a lawyer yet. And Zach is like, so you're just gonna let them take Tony? And Fatima's like, okay. So she goes up to the officer and she's like, I'm his legal counsel. And they're like, yeah? Fatima's like, yeah. She's like, I just got out of another case. Can you tell me why he's being arrested? This entire time, Tony's still talking, trying to confess, like, I'm a monster and all this other stuff. And everybody's like, Tony, if you don't shut the heck up. It turns out that Tony's being arrested for $3,000 in parking tickets because his tags were ran by an automatic tag reader. And Zach is like, isn't that illegal? Fatima's like, not in the state of Georgia. The officer starts listing off the places that the tags were read for, like strip clubs, bars, lounges, and all the things. Tony's like, my car hasn't even been to those places. The only person that I know that uses my car, and they all turn around to Nate, and Nate starts laughing. And everybody's like, this nigga. Yeah, this nigga, because Nate's always into stuff. Nate didn't even have the decency to tell Tony that he got those tickets, let alone let them rack up to $3,000. Tony, I understand that Nate's your friend and all, but if that were me, Nate would have to rob Peter to pay Paul to pay me my money back, because there's no way I'm going to jail for something that you did. After everybody leaves, it's just Nate, Tony, Connie, and Fatima there, and they're all talking about what happened, and Zach is like, you're never getting in my car. And Nate is like, don't we have to go get Connie's stuff from your house? And Zach is like, you're right, come on. It turns out that Connie did get her Airbnb, and I'm like, I'm glad, because it wasn't enough room for all of them, for one. And two, that was a lot of stress on Fatima, even though she said that she wants to help. Glad that Connie has her own place for right now, so that could be one step towards her getting her kids back. Fatima asked Connie and Nate to go to the car so that she could talk to Zach for a minute, and they basically have a conversation, and Fatima apologizes to Zach for not letting him know about Les. Zach is like, I'm still pissed about that, and Fatima's like, you have every right to be. I should have told you when it first happened. Zach is like, I don't think I'm gonna forgive you for this. Fatima's like, Zach tells Fatima she could have did anything to you or the baby. Fatima's like, I understand the lengths that you are willing to go for me, and I need you here, and I'm trying to protect you from that. Zach is like, I don't need you protecting me when I'm trying to protect you. Fatima tells Zach that she's gonna get a temporary restraining order against Leslie, and I'm like, what is a temporary restraining order gonna do? That lady is crazy. She's 48 hours crazy. A piece of paper is not going to stop that lady from hurting you or trying to get... I don't think Fatima truly understands the magnitude of how crazy Leslie actually is. Leslie truly believes that she's Fatima, and she lives the same exact life as Fatima does, so she's willing to go through any lengths just to get the actual Fatima out the picture. Fatima has the nerve to say if she violates the restraining order, I'll just call the police. And Zach is like, what the police are going to do? Because, like, they only show up when it's too late. Fatima's like, you're right, but at least if you do something to her, you have the paperwork to back it up saying that you had a restraining order. Either way that this goes, I think somebody's going to end up in jail, and I truly hope that it's Les. Over at the law firm in the parking lot, we see Angela getting out of her car, and as she's walking into the building, Sean surprises her with some flowers, and she's like, I realized that Angela was receptive to the flowers until she saw some people walking by, and she's like, so you just gonna put us on Front Street like that? I feel like Angela's the type of person that would want to have a relationship in private because she doesn't think that she deserves love public. I feel bad for Sean because Angela was being very cold towards him. She's like, I don't want a relationship with you. And Sean is like, okay, I understand that, but like, I just wanted to take you out on another date. Sean is like, I'm just trying to be nice. Angela's like, well, just because you're being nice, that don't mean I have to return the favor, basically. Sean is like, I bet if I was being mean to you, you would treat me so much nicer. Sean is like, everybody says that they want a bad boy until they get one, and now you don't know how to treat them. Angela's like, you know what? I don't need anything from you or anybody else. Sean is like, so you just checking them off like that? Angela's like, yeah. You know why? Because I can't. This is where she got me, though. She said that if you don't back off when I tell you to back off, you're just being a dick, right? And I'm like, that same principle doesn't apply to Bryce. Sean is actually putting in the effort to show you that he cares. Bryce is just being a nuisance and demanding that you be with him. Angela truly wants to be with somebody that she can run all over, and she knows that she can run all over Bryce, but she can't run all over Sean or Charles or anybody else. Self-sabotage is a terrible thing, and I fear that Angela is going to learn the hard way. Fatima finally makes it to the law firm, and she sees Angela in the parking lot, and she's like, was that Sean? Angela's like, yeah, he brought me some flowers. Fatima's like, oh, that's so nice. That was a nice gesture. Angela's like, no, it's not. Fatima notices that something's wrong. So she's like, let's go to my office and talk. They get to Fatima's office, and Fatima's like, what happened? Angela's like, Sean brought me some flowers. And Fatima's basically telling her that she's tripping. Angela's like, it would only be a nice gesture if it was from my man, and he's not my man. Fatima's like, well, you trying to be. Angela's like, well, I don't want him to be. Fatima's basically like, why not? Angela's like, why do I have to have a reason? Angela's like, well, not everybody can have a perfect relationship like you, Fatima. I can tell that Angela's just saying anything because she's mad and she don't know how to deal with these emotions, right? Angela knows that Zach and Fatima's relationship is far from anything but perfect. Angela starts to have this sad look on her face, and Fatima's like, what's wrong? And Angela's like, I pushed him away because I don't think I'm deserving of love. How could somebody like them want somebody like me? It can't be real, can it? Fatima's like, you're one of the dopest, flyest, kindest people that I know, and you can have anybody that you want. Fatima's like, yes, it can, because you know all the stuff that I went through before Zach, and I had to open my heart again to be open to love, and you have to do the same thing. Angela's like, I understand what you're saying, but I don't think Sean's the one. She's like, I guess I gotta tell him, huh? Fatima's like, yeah, but I know who better be the one. Angela catches on, and she's like, yeah, about that, I'm sorry. I have to apologize to Zach, too. Angela's like, is Zach gonna fire him? Fatima's like, you think, yeah, of course he's gonna fire him. Fatima's like, is there something there with Charles? Angela's like, no, you know I don't date no unemployed man. Fatima's like, yeah, we don't do that. Angela definitely needs to sit down and have a conversation with Dr. Reed and work through these. Angela really thinks that changing her appearance on the outside is really going to change how she feels about herself on the inside. She needs to work on the inside work first before she works on the outside. But I hate that they're starting to write Angela's character like this. Why does every plus-size woman have to have low self-esteem? Why can't they be confident and know who they are? Over outside of Connie's new place, we see Zach and Nate holding the bags and talking to Connie, and they're basically telling her that if you need anything, let us know. That's what friends and family are for. Nate tells her that he'll take her to the chemo treatments, and she says that she has one on Friday. Nate is like, okay, just tell me where you need to go and everything like that. And Nate tells her this is one step to you getting your kids back. And Connie is like, yeah, my kids. Nate is like, she gonna get her kids back, right? Zach is like, yeah. Of course, Zach was just being optimistic because he doesn't know for sure, but the way that caseworker was talking about Connie and everything, she's going to try her hardest to make sure Connie doesn't get her kids back. Over at the jail, we see it's time for Tony to get his one call, so he calls Mr. Tyrone and they basically have a conversation. Tony tells him that he's in jail for $3,000 parking tickets and Nate was the one that did it, and Mr. Tyrone is like, I don't know how I can help you because you were supposed to have all this money. Where'd your money go? Tony's like, I could talk about that when I get out of here. Tony's like, just help me, man. I thought you would have some money in the safe. Mr. Tyrone is like, don't worry about my money. Where your money at? So Mr. Tyrone doesn't know that Tony's been giving money to that man's grandma that he unalived at the barbershop. I don't know if this is Tony's first time being in jail, but he's sure acting like it. Why is he sitting there trying to volunteer information that has nothing to do with the reason why he's in jail for right now? Mr. Tyrone said the same thing. If you don't shut up, Mr. Tyrone basically tells him the only reason I'm bailing you out of jail right now is so that you don't say nothing stupid. Over at Rise Adventures, we see Zach on the phone, and he's talking to some old guy that's doing an inspection on the building that he was trying to get. So it turns out that he got the building, and they're going to be doing the inspection. So he tells Bryson and Preston what's going on, and they basically said that we could work this out tomorrow. And Zach is basically like, well, I can't because I have something to do. And Preston's like, I understand, it's called work-life balance. But Zach is coming up with a solution. He's like, if you give me the man's number, I could try to work something out. Preston's like, okay. That's when Charles comes in, and Bryce is like, what is he doing here? Zach is like, that's Fatima's bodyguard. Bryce is like, bodyguard? Bryce basically tells on himself, and he's like, why were you sleeping with Angela when you were supposed to be working? And Zach is like, how you know about that? Bryce is like, I was over at Angela's house this morning, and I brought her some breakfast. Then Bryce basically wants to fight Charles, but he doesn't go down like that, and Preston curves Bryce out. Bryce really tried to pull out some karate moves on Charles. Charles got hands. I don't think he wants to do karate with you, Bryce. Bryce, he would lose anyway. So once Bryce leaves, Zach apologizes for Bryce's behavior. He's like, Angela got him tripping, and Charles is like, I understand. He starts having flashbacks and all these things. And Charles is like, my bad, that's unprofessional. And Zach is like, yeah. Zach is like, I'm sorry, but I'm gonna have to let you go. Charles is like, can you just give me a write-up or something? Zach is like, no. And first of all, Fatima wasn't that comfortable with you anyway, and it's not gonna work. He's like, it's my bad for jumping the gun. I shouldn't have hired you on the spot like that. But what I can do is pay you 2 weeks and hire you for special events. I'm glad that Zach is taking accountability for the part that he played in this. Some time passes and Zach is home cooking dinner for Fatima, and Fatima comes in and she's like, wow, the house is so clean. Zach is like, I took time to clean it for you. Fatima's like, thank you, because it has been a long day. Zach is like, do you need a foot rub? Fatima's like, I need something else. Zach tries to carry up the stairs, but they realize that that's not going to happen, so they try to get down to business on the couch. Some time passes, they get down to business. Everything's fine and dandy. They're both sleeping. Fatima wakes up. She tells Zach that she's hungry. Zach isn't trying to get up, but he eventually gets up, and that's when he hears like this loud bang. So of course he grabs the blicky, but he's butt naked, so he puts a pillow in front of him. And that's when he gets up and he realizes that there's a brick through his. That was definitely Leslie sending a warning sign to them. Leslie isn't going to stop until somebody gets hurt, and I feel like Zach is definitely fed up with Leslie, and I wonder how this is all going to play out. Let me know what you guys think about the episode. Please be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Turn on your bell notifications. Bye!